Welcome to M Squared TechCast.
Hey, it's Matt Roush.
And Mike Brennan.
And we're back with another episode of the M Squared TechCast.
Yes, in the studio. The challenging video studio. But we are back.
The ever-popular. Yeah.
Yes. So we have on the line with us a frequent traveler, as it were, Dan Lohrmann.
Yep.
Who, I'm not sure, where are you today? Are you home or are you off somewhere in the world?
I'm home. I'm just, home in mid-Michigan. Yes, I'm not traveling this week. I was in Nashville last week. I'm in Utah next week.
Ah, okay.
All right. So Dan is actually, we were just talking about what he's going to talk about prior to starting, and he's got a term I'd never heard before, shadow IT. And so let's kind of go into defining exactly what that is.
Sure. Well, thanks, guys. It's great to be on the show again. So shadow IT, the concept of basically employees, business areas, whatever, bringing in equipment and doing, people think bring your own device, but most BYOD generally means it's authorized and there's, controls in place to bring your own device to work or policies and procedures around that. Shadow IT really is people bringing in their own technology and just using it on their own, and the IT shop, the CIO, the CISO, the security team doesn't generally know about it. And so why I did a blog on it this weekend was there was a report that came out by Entrust Data Card, pretty interesting, talked about the upside of shadow IT. It's the title of the report is Productivity Meets IT Security. So it's this kind of yin and yang, back and forth. Generally speaking, most CIOs and CISOs in the country think of shadow IT as being a bad thing, but this report was kind of saying it was a good thing.
Yeah, that's really taken BYOD to a whole new level, isn't it?
Yeah, it does. And some of the key findings, I'll just read off some of the different things they're talking about, is, empowers employees to use their own preferred tools that can deliver long-term benefits. In this survey, they had 77% of IT employees surveyed believe the organizations could earn an edge over competitors if company leaders were more collaborative about finding solutions to shadow IT needs from both IT and non-IT employees. It really kind of laid out this ignore employee requests at your own peril almost. 12% of IT departments surveyed followed up on all employee requests for new technology. So basically, it's employees kind of taking this into their own hands, and certainly they're being innovative. Certainly they're, you can see where they're coming from. I know when I was CISO in Michigan government, we used to be very fearful. Granted, we've talked about Internet of Things and IoT devices in the past on the show, but I kind of dread January, because people would bring in all their Christmas presents and plug them into the network, and literally we'd find inevitably something would have malware or would create some backdoors or wouldn't be password protected and would cause some kind of problems on the network.
Wow. It's almost like you need a holding area when you have a new device so it goes in there so you can kind of vet it, as it were, before you connect it to the network, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, I mean, it's funny. I really encourage people, certainly not any kind of a commercial message for Entrust Data Card. I think it's a really good report. Certainly it's thought-provoking, and I saw a lot of, really good points that they raised about making security professionals, technology professionals really think about how are they, providing the best tools, the best software, hardware, whatever it may be, Internet of Things devices for their staff. And you really need a policy and procedure around that. But on the other hand, it gave me pause at the end. I kind of end my blog with the discussion saying, I have a hard time encouraging people to do more shadow IT, because by definition, it's kind of like, hiding things from your parents almost, right? It's almost kind of like things on the enterprise network. I'm going to bring in my own tools, my own software, hardware, whatever it may be, and not let other people know about it, or just use it and hope nobody finds out. Or if they do find out, it's kind of like easier to ask for forgiveness and permission. So you see some of the data there, guys. You can, some of the numbers research and we're going to read off some of those, but why people were uncomfortable talking about shadow IT, and even other employees seeing other people in their networks at work. There's a whole list of reasons and percentages around why people don't report it when they see other people doing it as well.
Okay.
Is this, easier to do now, this bringing your own devices in, just because the tools are getting better, the devices are getting better? I mean, what's changed about this that you're not as paranoid about it, or don't have to be as paranoid about it as you used to be?
Well, I'm not, honestly, I'd say, Matt, great question. I'm still pretty paranoid about it. I'm not sure I'm on board. I mean, I think they raise good questions about innovation and, cutting edge and not just staying with the status quo. I think, but I think what the point of the report was that organizations risk becoming stale. If you don't have sometimes your staff are kind of taking matters into their own hands. And so what they're doing is, saying, I see this new tool, whether it be new storage device, new technology. Literally, it could be almost any kind of new, it could be a drone they bring in, literally, or things they plug into the network that use Wi-Fi. It could be almost anything that can help them do their jobs better. New application, new database. And the report's saying, hey, it can be a good thing because it can, these people are smart. They can be, they're maybe better educated than they used to be around security. As long as they put some protections in place, as long as they kind of use two-factor authentication and do some of the different things that we all think about with security related to passwords and updating the software, the firmware, doing the kinds of things that need to be done, then it could be a positive thing for organizations. I think the challenge is it an honest, open conversation in the enterprise? And I think, some of these numbers are pretty scary. 21% of organizations don't have any policies surrounding the use of new technology. 77% of IT pros agree that if left unchecked, shadow IT would become a bigger issue as we head towards 2025. And despite understanding of the risks, 40% of IT pros admit to using unapproved technology in their enterprises. So, the bottom line is it's happening. People are using it. They're getting their own, they're going online to Amazon. They're buying their own stuff. They're like, it's too hard. It's too complex. It's too convoluted or whatever to report this stuff. So I'm just going to bring it into work. But I think they feel like they're going to get a better, product, better service. They're going to do their job better. But the concerns are, really it's kind of, you're hiding this stuff from the security team.
Yeah, which kind of gets to the point I was making. Should it be, I don't know, I wouldn't say a firing offense, but should there be a new policy that's set out that everybody has to sign that if you bring in new technology, you have to have the security team vet it for you before you can plug it into the network?
Yeah, it makes sense.
That would, and have them sign it so they're conscious of it. I guess it's more of an educational issue, right?
No, I agree. That's exactly right. I think that's exactly right, Mike. And I think one of the other survey results I'm looking at here, 65% of people said, what are the consequences for employees who break shadow IT rules after one or two offenses? And this was, again, over 1,000 people in this report surveyed. 65% said that after one offense, they have to meet with IT and management and discuss kind of therapy, right?
Yeah.
They have to kind of sit down and talk about it. But 40% after two offenses, there's termination from the company.
Yeah.
So there is still that stick out there, which is like if you continue to do this, and but I think so often, we see this with breaches all the time. People end up, they think, I can do my job better. They break the rules. Maybe they bring things home they shouldn't bring. They put data on, even though there's protections in place, they put data on USB drives. They bring it home. They bypass security controls, and they think, well, I'm going to work at home. I'm going the extra mile to get this done. And then, inevitably, you hear stories of people losing those USB drives or losing their laptops and cars being robbed and those kinds of things. And obviously, if you do, fail, then the warning out there to all the listeners is, if you're violating policy and you make a mistake, you're doubly likely to get, penalized.
Yeah, fired at the very least. I know whenever my daughter, when she was a teenager, would come visit me and use my computer, I'd have to thoroughly debug it when she left because she'd be at all these social media sites. And one time I had 600 pieces of malware on my computer because of her. So that's what I'm saying. If somebody takes their computer home, the kid grabs it, uses it or something, and then, boy, so...
No, I think a lot of times, one quick example, I know we're wrapping up time-wise here, but I think one quick example is, people say, I know organizations, no USB drives are allowed or no unauthorized, you must be used ones that are given to you by the company or that kind of thing. But, where people say, well, I'm giving this talk at this organization, I'm going, to this conference, or they have a good reason why. And they're in a crunch. They maybe didn't submit the paperwork. They didn't get the the PowerPoint off the drive or whatever they needed, and they violate the rules. So they take a USB drive and they load their stuff up and they go out and inevitably I've heard literally many stories, dozens of stories of people who end up losing the technology. They lose the storage device. They may be infected in computer, or the computer gets infected. They bring it back onto the network, and again, I think it's an interesting report because this report was actually, again, I got to give the authors some credit. They're basically saying, we got to get to yes, we got to get to solutions, we got to be innovative. You got to keep trying to meet the needs of the business user and customer service, and not just say no. And I'm a big believer in that. I'm just not sure that by going, by not reporting it, by not having a process where you can have an honest, open conversation, you're going to end up with a secure network. But I highly encourage people to go ahead and read the report.
We're going to have to leave it at that. We ran out of time. If they want to read the report, or you're on LinkedIn, that's where I saw your column, right? You're right there?
Absolutely. GovTech.com. You can read Government Technology Magazine, Lohrmann on Cybersecurity, just LOHRMANN. They can go in, they can see the blog and get all the links there.
All right, and the magazine website is GovTech.com, GOVTECH.com. Dan Lohrmann, thank you so much for being with us today.
Four-year students love Lawrence Technological University's thriving campus life, but LTU has always met non-traditional students' needs too. Lawrence Tech offers over 100 degree and certificate programs that can get adult students started or back on track. And most of our classes are conveniently offered evenings at our beautiful Southfield campus or online, so you can balance your social, family, and work life even while you power up your career. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.